Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome into this Monday as we get back into the routine of things after a wonderful Thanksgiving long weekend. Here's what we're going to cover today. According to an email leak, a leading national refugee agency was warned multiple times that the Afghan terror suspect accused of murdering one National Guard member and critically injuring another was spiraling into mania and mental illness beginning in 2023, yet he still managed to win asylum in April of this year. We have the latest on this story. Meanwhile, Kristi Noem, President Trump's Secretary of Homeland Security, went on Meet the Press yesterday morning and said that they now believe this Afghan refugee was radicalized after he got here. Not in Afghanistan, not in a war zone, but right here in the United States. We have the latest on that, too. Senator Amy Klobuchar told CNN State of the Union yesterday that the Senate will hold a vote on extending subsidies offered under the Affordable Care Act sometime this year. This, of course, was the issue that caused the longest government shutdown in our country's history. And a Michigan man who bought a scratch-off lottery ticket left behind by another patron in a Detroit convenience store hit the jackpot, won $1 million.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Janine Pirro, says that there are more charges to come against the Afghan national who allegedly shot two West Virginia National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. on the eve of Thanksgiving last week.
There are certainly many more charges to come, but we are upgrading the initial charges of assault to murder in the first degree. This is a case that has touched the hearts of so many Americans because to be gunned down on the streets on the nation's holiday is an outrage.
Also weighing in on Sunday Morning Futures, acting U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, Alina Habba, says that the crime should not have happened and would not have had it not been for the failure of Joe Biden's policies.
It will be swift and heavy, and I can tell you that the U.S. Attorney in D.C., Janine, is just tremendous. She will have no mercy, as she should not, on something like this. This is an absolute failure of the prior administration, as we know, that has allowed open borders, and we've seen time and time again protesters coming out for what? This is a crime that should not have happened. It was avoidable, and that is why this administration is so focused on, number one, getting illegals out, number two, getting people that were brought in that want to commit crime that are not Americans, get out of our country. We don't want you here. If you don't love this country, we have no patience or time for you, and we will bring the law down when you hurt our patriots. And that is what happened here. This woman's life was taken too soon. And I know that Janine's just going to be tremendous. When she prosecutes this case, she will do justice by that family.
Of course, we have learned that the accused shooter drove from Washington State to carry out this ambush-style attack with a Smith & Wesson revolver, according to the Associated Press. President Trump spoke to the media from the Oval Office and pointed out that this is more reason to fix the immigration system that the Biden administration allowed to be taken advantage of by criminals from all around the world.
This heinous atrocity reminds us that we have no greater national security priority than ensuring that we have full control over the people that enter and remain in our country. For the most part, we don't want them. They come in illegally. They have a lot of problems. Their countries force them in because their countries are smart. They don't want them. Let's give them to the Americans to take care of. They come out of jails in many cases, mental institutions, they're gang members, they're drug dealers.
This is a story, of course, that has pretty much just lit up every news cycle over this past Thanksgiving weekend. A young National Guard soldier, Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, just 20 years old, killed. Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf, 24, fighting for his life. Two young patriots standing post just blocks from the White House. Thanksgiving week, it's just heartbreaking what these families had to do over their Thanksgiving weekend. And now we know more about the guy who accused of pulling the trigger. His name is Ramanullah, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right or not, Ramanullah Lakanwal, an Afghan national brought here during the Biden era, Operation Allies Welcome. We were told these were the folks who helped our troops, who fought alongside U.S. forces. Many did, but clearly not all. Here's where the story takes a turn. And, folks, this is where your eyebrows are going to go up. Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security, went on Meet the Press yesterday morning and said they now believe this guy was radicalized after he got here, not in Afghanistan. She didn't mince words. She said, quote, "We believe he was radicalized since he's been here through connections in his home community." So think about that. A man who's supposed to be one of our vetted allies gets resettled in Washington State, and instead of rebuilding his life, learning English, finding a job, putting down roots, he spirals. We learned this weekend that there were red flags over this past year. Mental instability, erratic behavior, weeks-long disappearances, the kids showing up to school unwashed and unfed, the family facing eviction, a community member literally emailing refugees agencies saying this guy is not okay, someone needs to check on him. And somehow, after all of that, he still gets his asylum approved this past April. Now, you tell me how that happens. Now, what officials won't say publicly, but what has been widely reported, and we're going to get into some more about this guy a little bit later, because there's been some emails that have been disclosed that tells us more about this guy. So the Trump administration is treating this not as some random outburst, but as a breakdown of vetting, of resettlement, and of oversight of this program, and maybe even a national security failure. And that's why on Friday, right after the shooting, President Trump said that the United States is permanently pausing migration from all third world countries until vetting is completely rebuilt. And this was, when this was all happening, you and I talked about it. I had a problem with it from the beginning. Joe Biden and his administration were just in too big of a hurry to get these people over here without really vetting who they were. Kristi Noem doubled down yesterday. She said it applies to migrants already in the pipeline and even to people who already have active asylum cases. If their situation has changed or if there's a concern, they can be removed, she said. This isn't some symbolic executive order, folks. This is millions of cases. She said they're reviewing every single person with a pending asylum claim. And remember, there's a backlog of about 1.5 million right now. But look, we don't need to get in a hurry because we have to get this right or we're going to end up with more National Guards being killed or police officers being killed or other first responders being killed or your neighbor, our neighbor, being killed. Critics are screaming that this is too harsh. But the administration's argument is very simple. If even one dangerous person slipped through the system, and clearly this guy did, then every file needs to be looked at another time. And frankly, that's pretty hard to argue with when we've got a 20-year-old soldier dead on a sidewalk in the nation's capital. But let me tell you what stood out most to me. Ms. Noem said very clearly that this radicalization did not happen in Afghanistan. It came from inside the United States. Now, tell me how this can happen. Tell me how there is such a network of Afghanis here that are radicalizing people who've come from Afghanistan here to hate our country, to hate our soldiers. That means something broke here. Something failed here. This was our system, not the Taliban, not ISIS, not a warlord in Kandahar, but right here in the United States with a man living in Bellingham, Washington. He connected with somebody somewhere who pushed him down a very dark path. How many others are out there being trained or manipulated just like him? Is that not a scary thought to you, like it is to me? Hey, it's Joey Hudson. The holidays are here, and while most people are adding pounds, what if you could start 2026 feeling lighter and more confident? I lost over 30 pounds with PhD weight loss, and it completely changed how I think about food. My coach showed me what to eat, how to handle the holidays, and how to enjoy meals without guilt. At PhD, their metabolic reset system helps your body burn fat first so you lose weight naturally and you keep it off. No starvation diets, no crazy workouts, no drugs, just a smarter science-based system that actually works. And right now, for November only, PhD Weight Loss is waiving your consultation fee, adding 2 free weeks to your program, and even covering the cost of your food. Plus, just for booking, you'll get their free guide, 5 steps to reset the scale. Mention code 2026START to claim these bonuses. Get started today. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900. And you can find them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss. Feel amazing during the holidays and beyond. So before we leave the topic of this radicalized Afghani, it raises some really questions, some tough questions. When you get back to how was he radicalized here, if in fact that's the case. And look, Secretary Noem is the one who's saying that is a big possibility. I mean, who was he talking to? Who influenced him? Was it online? Was it in person? Why did the refugee agency miss the warning signs? And why was this man granted asylum just months before killing an American soldier? These are all valid questions that we need to be asking. I mean, this is one of those stories that you have to think about, that you sit back and you say, how on earth did every warning sign get ignored? How did we let yet another preventable tragedy unfold right in the heart of our nation's capital, involving someone who should have been on the radar of federal and state officials from day one, right? And should not have ever received asylum back in the spring. Because here's what we've learned also. One of the leading national refugee agencies in the country, the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants, was warned multiple times that this Afghan refugee, now who's being charged with murdering a 20-year-old National Guard specialist and critically injuring another, was spiraling into mental illness, dangerous behavior, and total instability. Let me say that again. They were warned, not once, not twice, but repeatedly, going back to early last year before he ever officially received asylum. Yet he somehow received that asylum in April. This is a system we've been told is safe, thorough, and fully vetted. That's what Joe Biden wanted us to think. Joe Biden would just sort of brush you to the side if you question the system. This is the system they assured us cannot fail. Yeah, well, it failed. Catastrophe. We had a catastrophe with this young lady losing her life. And we pray that this young man is able to recover. So here's what we know. Here are the red flags. According to the leaked emails obtained by the Associated Press, this 29-year-old, he's a father of 5, by the way, brought into the U.S. under Operation Allies Welcome, had been unraveling mentally since early 2023. A local advocate emailed the refugee agency saying this, and I'll read from the email. Ramanala has not been functional as a person, father, or provider. He quit his job. His behavior has changed greatly. That was in an email. He was described as manic, depressed, isolated, sometimes disappearing for days or even weeks at a time, driving across the country in these wild episodes. One email says he would sit alone in a dark room refusing to speak to his own wife or kids. Another warned he was reaching a point where he might harm himself. Well, he didn't harm himself, but he took out a National Guard soldier. The man was in deep crisis. And let's be clear, mental health episodes don't automatically make someone dangerous, but they sure tell you if someone needs help or maybe intervention before something goes wrong. And something went terribly wrong. While all this was happening, the family was struggling. The kids were showing up to school unwashed, we're told. They faced eviction. He was keeping up was not keeping up with the required contacts with the State Department, contacts that were part of the deal of him being allowed to come into the country. This wasn't subtle. It wasn't hidden. People were sounding alarms through these emails and within his community. And yet the emails say that the U.S. CRI finally tried to visit him in March of this year, then assumed he refused assistance when they couldn't connect. The case was closed. And remember, I told you a minute ago, his asylum was approved in April. What happened there? We go from that to fast forward to Thanksgiving Eve in Washington, D.C., where he reportedly drove all the way from Washington State across the country on one of his wild trips, opens fire on 2 National Guard members just blocks from the White House. One of those has since died. 20-year-old specialist Sarah Beckstrom. 24-year-old Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf is still fighting for his life. 2 young Americans serving their country, ambushed by someone our own system failed to monitor. So the big question, how did he get asylum? This is the part that should outrage every American who believes in law, order, and common sense. Despite documented mental instability, reports of family neglect, failure to comply with the state that he lived in, Washington State, job instability, manic episodes, community warnings, a refugee agency raising concerns, this man was granted asylum in April. So here's the question. I know a lot of you are probably asking just like I am. If someone with multiple red flags like this can sail through the system and get permanent legal status, who can't? Who are we denying? Are we not denying anyone and sending them back to their country of origin? Our immigration system evidently is so overwhelmed, so poorly coordinated between federal and state agencies, and so terrified of being accused of discrimination that it seems incapable of making basic, rational decisions, and President Trump is going to fix that. And we have to give him the tools. Congress has to give him the funding to make sure that it is fixed. And let's not forget, this wasn't just any refugee. He was part of the Zero Unit, a CIA-based special ops program in Afghanistan, a unit we know operated in some of the most dangerous and ethically murky parts of that war. There were already layers to sift through there, and clearly somebody didn't do it. So where were the safeguards and what happened? Can we not vet these people properly? Particularly if they're showing signs of severe mental distress, they're not complying with the required oversight, not checking in with the State Department. That alone, not checking in with his contact at the State Department when he was supposed to, that should have disqualified him from asylum immediately. You agree? Text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. This is an interesting story out of Michigan. A 33-year-old man offered to buy a scratch-off lottery ticket that had been left lying on the counter by another person just a few minutes before walking into this Detroit convenience store. Evidently, someone had already purchased it and forgot and left it on the counter. So the guy walked up wanting to buy one of the scratch-off cards. It was lying there. He said, well, can I just buy this one? Guess what? He's $1 million richer because of it. The lucky winner, who wants to remain anonymous, saw that another customer had passed on paying the $10 Blazing Suits drawing last week. 10 Blazing Suits draw. You know, I don't really know that much about these scratch-off things. I've never even done one. But I've heard that evidently there were a couple of big winners this past weekend for $1 million in various states. According to lottery officials, he chose to take a lump sum payment of $693,000 instead of yearly payments that would have amounted to the full $1 million. The Wolverine State Lottery, like other states, donates proceeds of games of chance to its Department of Education. Last year contributed more than $1 billion to school aid. Meanwhile, the anonymous winner still has a problem on his hands. He said, winning is a great feeling, but it's also a lot of pressure because your mind starts thinking of all the different things you can do with this amount of money. No sign of the unlucky person who balked at flopping down the $10 and walked away from the winning ticket. All right, let's talk healthcare politics, because here we go again. Senator Amy Klobuchar says the Senate is planning to vote to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies that were juiced up during the COVID and later renewed in the Democrats' Inflation Reduction Act. And of course, the Democrats themselves set an expiration date of this year, December, into December. So here's the deal. Those subsidies expire in December, and if that happens, according to officials, millions of Americans could see their health premium spike. We're talking double or even triple in some cases, according to the Democrat senators. The Minnesota Democrat was on CNN this weekend saying that Republicans need to step up and do something. She said, pass it or pay the political price. But let's not forget, these so-called temporary pandemic measures have now been extended for years. What was sold as emergency relief at the time has morphed into permanent spending with no clear way to pay for it. And that's what the Republicans who are balking at extending this is the case they're making. And look, it's an argument that is valid. We have billions and billions of dollars that were supposed to have been just during COVID that are continued to be paying out. And this is what is continuing to contribute to our $1 trillion plus debt that we are not even thinking about paying off. Now, Senator Klobuchar is warning that if Republicans don't play ball, Democrats will use it as a cudgel going into the 2026 midterm, saying, quote, we have no other choice. Well, of course they're going to use it. They're going to use it either way. They're going to still blame the Republicans for the shutdown and the pain that was felt during the shutdown because Republicans wouldn't agree to extending it then. Their argument is, had the Republicans simply agreed to extend the subsidies, the shutdown would have never happened. So what's really going on here? Politically, Democrats are trying to paint the GOP as heartless, that they just don't care about people's health care, slapping families with higher premiums while inflation's already squeezing wallets. But Republicans, pushing back, argue this is just more big government spending wrapped in a nice-sounding package. Which argument are you buying? Do you believe Republicans should give in and extend the Obamacare subsidies? Text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Always use promo code Joey when you go to MyPillow.com. And boy, this is the time to be going to MyPillow.com and placing the order for, let's say, the 6-piece towel set, 2 bath towels, 2 hand towels, 2 washcloths. Regular $69.98. When you use promo code Joey, you're going to get them for $39.98. What a great stocking stuffer this is. Or the My Slippers, or the bed sheets. Everything is on sale. Everything is on sale as you can start buying for your Christmas list at MyPillow.com, and you're going to get big savings when you throw my name around. Just tell them Joey Hudson sent you. Use promo code Joey and save big. But leave me a message. What do you think? Should Republicans cave in? Is this potentially going to hurt Republicans in the midterms if, in fact, what the Democrats tell us is going to happen, that health insurance is going to skyrocket? Should the federal government step in and keep subsidizing health insurance? They want the Democrats want targeted reforms, the Republicans are saying don't give them a blank check that's going to go to the insurance companies or a deeper entrenchment of Obamacare. The bottom line is this December deadline, and by the way, I think I earlier said December, the end of December. It's actually December the 15th. So that's just around the corner. If these subsidies expire, you can expect the Democrats, of course, who point the finger at Donald Trump and the Republicans. If they don't, you'll see fiscal conservatives sounding the alarm about how much more we're going to be adding to national debt, which just topped $38 trillion, and this would continue to grow that national debt. I mean, either way, we can watch this upcoming deadline of December the 15th, because there's going to be a lot of political chess being played over these next few weeks. After coming off of a big college football weekend, it's always fun to see the students enjoying the college experience in the student section. Was I disappointed with my South Carolina Gamecocks losing to the Clemson Tigers. I just knew we were going to win it this year. I just felt good about it. Even though the Gamecocks have had a terrible season, they've had some fantastic games that they should have won. I mean, up 30-3 against Texas A&M, it shows you that they have the ability to run the football, to score. Almost beating Alabama, but that almost is the key there, because we weren't playing horseshoes, and almost close only works in horseshoes. But the whole college football thing, I mean, it's just part of that college life and getting your degree. But what happens after you graduate? Well, an NBC News poll says that more than 6 in 10 registered voters say that a 4-year college degree is now not worth the cost. That is just not adding up. Just 33% of respondents say that a 4-year degree is worth it. A drop of 20 points since the last time they asked this question in June of 2013. Meanwhile, the share who say a college degree is no longer a good value has surged to 63%, a 23-point jump over the last 12 years. The 20-point slide over the past 12 years from 53% to 33% today say a degree is worth the cost shows up across nearly every demographic group. But the shift is most dramatic among Republicans, according to the poll. A decade ago, Republicans were fairly positive about higher education. 55% said a 4-year degree was worth it, and 38% disagreed. In the latest poll, that's reversed. Only 22% of Republicans now see a degree as worthwhile, while 74% say it's no longer worth it. Overall, the majority surveyed say they agree that college is not worth the cost because people often graduate without specific job skills and with a large amount of debt to pay it off. They have a point, don't they? The shift in attitudes is pretty much attributed to the cost of college. Adjusted for inflation, College Board data shows the average in-state tuition at public 4-year colleges has doubled since 1995, while tuition at private 4-year institutions has climbed 75% over that same period. I mean, it's just almost impossible for people to afford to pay for college without taking out a bunch of loans. And we all know what those college loans are doing to people now too, right? Preston Cooper is a senior fellow at the Conservative American Enterprise Institute. He said some people drop out, or sometimes people end up with a degree that is not worth a whole lot in the labor market, and sometimes people pay way too much for a degree relative to the value of what that credential is. He added, these cases have created enough exceptions to the rule that a bachelor's degree always pays off, so that people are now more skeptical that it's worth the expense. NBC News surveyed 1,000 registered voters between October 24th to the 28th to get these results. What do you think? Is college worth it? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Email's always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, you know, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at FurmanFord.com, FurmanFord.com. All right, folks, let's get into a story that's turning one of the most unsettling and honestly one of the most reckless political moves we've seen from sitting members of Congress in a long, long time. We talked about it quite a bit last week. It's the viral video where 6 Democrat lawmakers, including Senators Mark Kelly and Alyssa Slotkins, looking straight into the camera and telling U.S. troops, you can refuse illegal orders. No explanation, no context, no definition of what illegal means, just refuse. Well, over the weekend, the fallout hit a whole new level. Senator Mark Kelly went on Meet the Press. Host Kristen Welker put the exact question to him, the same real-world dilemma actual service members would face. She asked him, and here's the question, if you were still in uniform and you were ordered to strike suspected drug boats overseas and kill everyone on board, would you refuse that order? Here's the exchange.
You're asking officers in the field to make really tough calls about the legality of what they are being asked to do. So I want to put the question to you. If you were still in uniform, if you received an order to strike suspected drug boats overseas and kill everybody on board, would you refuse that order in real time?
Well, let me start by saying I've sunk 2 boats, 2 ships. I sunk an OSA-2 missile patrol boat in Kuwait Harbor. I sunk a Polnokny troop carrier in the Persian Gulf during the first Gulf War. Never once did I question whether those orders were legal or illegal. People can tell the difference, should be able to tell the difference between something that is unlawful and something that is lawful. And if I was ever given an unlawful order, I would refuse. If you have time, you can certainly go to the judge, advocate generals, the lawyers, and have a discussion about it. If you don't have time, you just say simply, I'm not going to do that. That's against the law.
It puts a lot of burden on the troops to make a decision in real time.
It puts a tremendous amount of burden on officers in the military, but that is their responsibility, and they can figure out, a reasonable person can tell something that is legal and something that is illegal.
So would you refuse these specific orders to strike drug boats if you were still in uniform?
Well, the difference between the initial strike and what is being reported, as a second strike, and those things are different. I think this administration has tied themselves in knots, the explanations that we have received on how this is all legal.
Now, keep in mind, Mark Kelly is not just any U.S. senator. He's a former Navy captain, a combat pilot, a guy who has flown 39 combat missions, according to records. This is someone who knows what it means to receive a mission, to execute it, and to trust the chain of command. His answer, well, I don't think it helped his case. Do you? Never once did I question whether those orders were legal or illegal. I mean, what does he expect a person to do potentially out in combat? I mean, a reasonable person, really? Folks, in the middle of a military operation, and I've never worn a uniform. I'd love to hear from those of you who have. Do you really have that option of trying to decide, well, is this legal or illegal? Don't you just trust the chain of command? Don't you just trust your commanding officer? I mean, this is exactly why so many military leaders, including former JAG officers, have been sounding the alarm, because that's not how the military law works. The system is built on the chain of command, on discipline, on clarity of those commands. If every soldier becomes their own constitutional lawyer in the moment, you don't have a military. You're going to have chaos. And remember, these lawmakers didn't issue this message quietly to the Pentagon or to legal advisors. They posted it publicly online, directed at troops and intelligence officers, knowing full well it would inflame the debate over President Trump's use of force. And it's been viewed millions of times now. It's been shared. It's been recreated. That video, it had the effect that they hoped it would. So Kristen Welker pushed him, as you heard. Would he refuse that strike order if he were still in uniform? Yes or no? He, of course, dodged the question. He said the administration tied themselves in knots, saying that he was concerned for service members. I mean, if you listen to it carefully, he's not just questioning President Trump. He's implying active duty troops could be prosecuted after the fact for following orders that he doesn't seem to like. I mean, to me, that's dangerous territory. And look, we've had years of Democrats telling us they respect the troops, that they're defending democracy, they're protecting institutions, but firing troops over vaccine mandates during COVID, that was fine. Now encouraging troops publicly to defy orders because they personally disagree with the commander-in-chief? I mean, is that how you defend the Constitution? I mean, even Kristen Welker, who is not a conservative, pointed out that Kelly and his colleagues were putting an enormous burden on service members, and they are, forcing them to make legal determinations in real time in the middle, potentially, of a conflict zone. Kelly's answer again, it's a tremendous burden, but that's their responsibility. Is it their responsibility? Is it a member of the U.S. Army, the Navy, a Marine? Is it their responsibility to interpret whether or not an order is legal or illegal? I don't think so, Senator. I mean, I think that's the responsibility of the commander-in-chief, the president, and then everyone who follows him. Civilian leadership, the Congress can decide legality. The chain of command decides legality. Judge advocates decide legality. Troops, I don't think, freelance constitutional law at the moment a missile leaves the battleship or the airplane. And let's not ignore the big picture here. This video came out during a politically heated debate over President Trump's authorizations of strikes on drug-running boats in the Caribbean, carrying drugs, trying to get those drugs to American soil. Strikes that Congress is still trying to hash out. Instead of confronting policy like adults, these lawmakers went straight to the troops, over the heads of military leadership, and said essentially, if you don't like the order, just don't follow it. And according to him, it's their responsibility to determine whether they should follow it or not. It puts the men and women in uniform in a very precarious situation. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.